Hey everyone, welcome back to Omocha Reviews. Anne here, and today we are going to be reviewing the Capcom Figure Builder Monster Hunter Standard Model Plus Volume 19 box set. Now I know that was a mouthful, but essentially these are small figures of the different monsters in the series, and together this box set costs about $60, meaning that they're about $10 each. And Volume 19 is the first ever to feature monsters from Monster Hunter Rise. Now right off the bat, you can tell that this is a box that you're not meant to keep. There are perforations on the side alongside designs of Tetranadon, Aknosom, Khezu, as well as Magnamalo, Somnacanth, and Mizutsune, which are the figures that are in this volume. On the back, you have the standard choke hazards, all these warnings for kids, but all of them are in Japanese, so I can't really tell you much aside from that. Anyway, you can use the perforations to open the box, but I want to keep it, so I just opened it like that. As you can see, there are 6 identical boxes. I want to explain that. This is meant to be a gachapon game. So when you go to a store in Japan, you just see the box and you pick whichever one you want, but you won't know what's inside. So really, there's no guarantee that you will get the figure that you want unless you get the box set, which is why they probably offer it in the first place. So similarly, the box inside shows the different monsters that you can possibly get. So that's the Somnacanth, Mizutsune, Magnamalo, as well as Tetranadon up top, and the Aknosom here. And though I do say there are 6 statues that are part of this set, actually there are 7. Because in each of the 6 boxes included, there is an extra part that helps make up a clear Magnamalo statue. So basically, there is one big perk of the box set, and that's the fact that you are assured of this extra figure. Anyway, let us open this. There's a perforation here as well. You're meant to wreck the box. It's a gachapon game after all. Open it up and you'll see that the figure that you got will be wrapped in plastic, along with a plastic base as well as an extra part for extra support. So this right here is the Mizutsune. It all comes in one big piece aside from the extra stand. And also here is the extra part for the clear Magnamalo in that bright purple. This is the front leg. This is essentially how you are going to find all 6 figures inside their boxes. You'll find the statue itself pretty much in one piece, along with the support and the base. Oh, and of course that extra part for the clear Magnamalo. There are no instructions whatsoever inside any of these boxes, so you're pretty much left to your own devices in terms of setting these up. But all the monsters are pretty straightforward in the sense that they either have a peg underneath or they have a hole where you can attach a stand, which you can then put on the base. So again, pretty straightforward, but a little more challenging than you would think. And I'll go into that when I go over the figures one by one. So first up, let's look at the Somnacanth, which I believe to be one of the monsters in this set that actually got a bit of a glow up from the game. Right off the bat, you have beautiful, vibrant colors and textures. They did it a huge favor by giving it a more vertical pose versus the other monsters in this set. That tail conceals a peg underneath, and behind it you do have a stand which keeps it upright because it has a tendency to lurch forward just a little bit. The frill on the back of the head has a lot of give, so I would treat this a little carefully. The only downside I would say is the fact that it's facing downward, so you can't really see its face. But then again, the Somnacanth isn't really a looker, shall we say. It's really the textures of the scales and of the fins and the frill on its head that actually really sell this product. And if anything, I think this figure made me appreciate the Somnacanth's design a little more from the game. Next up, we have Monster Hunter Rise poster boy Magnamalo, looking just about ready to pounce upon an unsuspecting Arzuros. Some of you will find this pose rather familiar. It is almost the exact same pose that the Magnamalo Amiibo has. I'll bring that up for some size comparison in a bit. But you can see that the colors, the paint job, they are definitely different from the Nintendo Amiibo. There is a slightly shiny finish on this Magnamalo, and the colors are decidedly darker, or I don't want to say duller, considering the amount of detail and shading that they managed to pack into this. If you look under, there is a vibrant red, there's a lot of detail in the underbelly, You see the scales come through. It's really just well made, even if it kind of just doesn't fit on the platform. I also want to note that this is the only monster in the set that does not come with an extra stand. Magnamalo can stand on its own with the pegs underneath its feet. So here he is next to the Magnamalo amiibo. As you can see, he's significantly smaller, but the pose is pretty much identical aside from the Hellfire. Like I said, not quite as vibrant as the amiibo, but you know, not bad. Definitely not bad for only $10, considering that the amiibo is maybe twice the price. But personally, I'd still buy the amiibo any day, considering that awesome Hellfire and all the perks that you get in Monster Hunter Rise. Anyway, moving on to what is easily one of the most horrifying things I've ever seen in my life. This is the Khezu with its elongated neck. I do believe this is the first time they've ever done a figure with its neck stretched out like this. And of course, you have that gaping red mouth that will give you nightmares. But as gross and grotesque as it looks, the Khezu looks pretty awesome. They really managed to make this thing look like a hunk of flesh with all of the textures that they put on its neck and its wings and its belly. I don't even want to look at its belly. Take a look around, you see that there is a bit of pink that they put on the wings. That's a nice, yeah, I don't think anything about the Khezu can be nice, I guess. But anyway, there is a hole between the Khezu's legs where you're supposed to be able to put this stand, but I had a little bit of trouble. I may try again later. But I have to say that all the monsters do have problems being put into the base. Typically, the pegs on their feet are made a little too thick. At least you can manage with a bit of force. This headstand here, necessary for how the elongated neck works here, is working perfectly fine. But otherwise, that other stand, I may as well just not use it at all. But overall, still a good statue. Next up, I want to talk about what is easily the biggest winner in this entire set, and that is the Tetranadon. This is hands down one of my favorite designs from Monster Hunter Rise, and they managed to render it so beautifully for the Capcom figure builder set. They managed to capture the textures and the colors so vibrantly, but still make it look like something that could blend in the water. And what's interesting about this one is that it's the only one that's basically just floating over the base. It has a little hole where you stick that stand in, and that's it. It's just so dynamic, looking like it's running at you, about to throw you up in the air and swallow you whole. I think it was also pretty smart that they made this guy float to capture the entire, like, the roundness of his body, capture the entire sumo wrestler thing that they gave him. And even the textures on his belly, you can see a minor seam line there in the center, but it's completely negligible. You're not gonna care about it considering the dappled look, so true to the game. I just love it. Another figure that I love from this set, and again, a huge winner of the glow up category in this set, is the Aknosom. They made it look just so elegant, the way it's supposed to look in the games. The details of the feathers on its wings, as well as the leathery crest on its head, are just done so well, and I think this is a great case of how they did the shading just so excellently. Like the Somnacanth, this does have a stand that you attach to its back to keep it upright. And I would say versus the Somnacanth, this stand is a lot more necessary for the Aknosom because this is easily the most fragile figure in this entire set. And you actually need to be really careful attaching it to the base, which is why, as you can see, I didn't get it down all the way because I was afraid I might bend the leg too much. You can see that there's a bend in the wings, the crest. Everything in this figure is bendable, so please do be careful, and if you're gonna pose it like this without the stand, know that it does wobble a lot. So I've said a lot about the biggest winners of the set, you know, the ones that glowed up a lot. Here is this figure I think was actually the biggest loser in Volume 19. This is the Mizutsune, and it's one of the reasons we got this set to begin with. Before I get to the bad, of course, I will be looking at the good, and you can see right away that the colors are just marvelous. The paint job is just, it's really amazing. They used a shimmering sort of paint to be able to capture just how beautiful the Mizutsune is in-game. Its pose is so dynamic. I can feel that it's about to whip its tail at me and toss me off a waterfall. It's pretty stable. It has its own stand just underneath the chest and at 2 of its feet. But the downside is, of course, its face. Specifically, its eyes, where after all the shimmering paint and fading, they just went, screw it, let's draw 2 dots. And if you're the type to look closely, there are also more noticeable seam lines in this figure versus all of the others, which is really just disappointing considering how graceful the Mizutsune is, but as long as you're not looking at it close up, it stands. It does. And you know, considering just how nice that paint looks from far away, this isn't a bad deal for just $10. Or well, what should be $10 unless you purchase the box set, where, like I said, there are extra parts for a clear Magnamalo, which I'll assemble right now. Including the base, there are 6 different parts for Magnamalo: the front legs, the back legs, which were packaged together alongside the Khezu box, as well as the tail. Considering how bad the sizing for the pegs at the bottom of the feet are, for almost all the statues, I was pretty surprised that all of the parts for Magnamalo fit together pretty well, and it holds up versus the real one. These are essentially the same figure, I would think, with the clear Magnamalo using the exact same mold as the one that you see on the left. In fact, I wouldn't really be surprised if the one on the left was really just the clear one painted over with the real colors. Anyway, all the detail is pretty much the same when you look at it. It's just that the colors are that clear translucent purple, one that recalls the Hellfire more than Magnamalo himself. I think it's a cool extra, but if you ask me, I wouldn't really purchase it on its own, because without all of the paint, the gold in particular, you don't really see much of the details of the scales in this translucent version. So I have a feeling that if you had a really bright light, a dedicated one just for him, you could probably get a lot more out of this, considering you'd have more shadows to emphasize these textures a lot better. But yeah, otherwise, I really appreciate it as an extra, but I wouldn't buy it by itself. So that's it for them one by one, but one last note about this set. Notice these hooks on the side of these platforms. You can actually use them to hook the figures to each other, and it's actually a pretty cool trick if you're worried about losing these, because they're pretty small. They're nice for a desk, but you can actually lose them. So you have the choice of posing them standalone, maybe in a line, or even in a cool beehive shape if you want to find a way to get really creative with them. So whether you do want to take your chances and try the gachapon method of getting these figures, or if you want to just catch them all and get the box set, you can be assured that the quality of these monsters in Volume 19 are pretty up to scratch. And considering that each figure is basically just $10, it's a no-brainer. This is an excellent addition to your Monster Hunter collection that I do wholeheartedly recommend. Anyway, that's all for today, guys. What do you think of these Monster Hunter figures? Leave us a comment, and if you like this video, please do leave us a like. If you want to see more, don't forget to hit that notification button. Thank you again for tuning in to Omocha Reviews. This is Anne, and until next time, goodbye!